So looking at the messengers, right? These guys can travel up to 24 because they're galloping. So this messenger can actually make it all the way to the rearguard commander and back. Same thing, this messenger can reach anywhere within the vanguard. So either the billman or the horseman are notified because he can be attached to either of those. So these men are all covered by orders. And then this was actually only 8 inches. So 8 inches and back is only 16. So all of the messengers actually imparted their message and returned to the commander's side on the Yorkists. Looks like it's going to be a similar circumstance for the Lancastrians. It's only 12 inches between the army commander and James Butler over here. So that messenger can make it out and back. And then this distance, again, it's 12 inches to his commander of the rear guard and back. So the messengers made it out and back easily within the orders phase for both sides for first turn. So just a word on reaction tests. Again, we're looking at the 142 rules instead of 143, but this did not change. So reaction test determines whether or not a unit will continue with its orders. It is taken at the end of the phase unless due to charge, countercharge, or excessive casualties. So as we do this simultaneous movement phase, we may have some reaction tests, especially on the Lancastrian side. And yes, we will have reaction tests even here in turn 1. So the Lancastrians are moving these Breton javelin men into skirmishing mode to skirmish up in this field. The cavalry on the right side here, these couriers, have been ordered to charge anything that moves forward to that hill. So they will definitely have forced a reaction test on at least the 2 stands that they move, but there's also a reaction test that's necessary the first time a unit comes within, again, we're looking at the QRS here, a unit first comes within 15 inches of the enemy's medium or heavy cavalry. So in this case, these guys are listed as medium cavalry, and we'll also have a reaction test up here for the heavy cavalry. And the reaction tests are only going to affect the Lancastrian side now. Now, when you roll the reaction test, you're going to roll 1, 2, or 3 d6, depending on how worn down the enemy is. In this case, it's always going to be 3 d6 because none of these stands have had any casualties. One of the other things to consider is whether the troops are regular or irregular. In this case, the Breton javelin men are considered irregular. That means that when I roll these dice, it's the full range of d6. For all other troops in this engagement, besides these Irish kerns and the Breton javelin men, they're regular troops. Oh, wait a minute, and the Welsh spearmen way down there in the rear guard in the woods down there, those are also irregular. That means irregulars have a wider range of potential reactions, whereas with regular troops, when you roll this, if I got a 6, I would change that to a 4, and if I got a 1, I would change it to a 3. So the range goes 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5 for these dice. I could gin up some dice that are what we call D-average in the killing fields system, but there's just not enough time in the day to do all this stuff, guys. So we're going to roll these reaction tests for these 3 units, and then as each of these heavy horse come out toward these Yorkish units, at least I think every one of them is going to pass by this heavy horseman that's not already been engaged or encountered. But we'll see how that plays out, because he's also ordered to charge once he figures out that these guys are threatening the infantrymen. But let's handle these 3 reaction tests first. That's going to be 3d6 for each of those units, because they're coming within 15 inches of the horseman for the first time. And 2 of them, I'm not going to do double reaction tests. I'm just going to do 1 roll for each one. So here's 3d6 for this guy. And then let's get some more dice. Okay, so 3d6 for this unit that's coming off the hill. 3d6, that's not good. For this unit that's coming off the hill. And 3d6 for this unit that's coming out of the pass here between the hill and the woods. All right. Next step on this is we look at the reaction test factors. Unit being tested is under missile artillery fire. No. Hit on, nope. Not disordered. Noble attached to the unit. Not really, no. Not for those Bretons. Army commander within 15 inches of the unit. I don't think so. 15 inches. Nope, not going to be. Unit downhill from the enemy. Unit is downhill from the enemy. Unit is uphill, ask +1. If it pertains to an enemy unit within 15 inches. So these guys are going to get +1 on theirs. So we're going to just bump this to a, well, yeah, they do the full range. So we're going to bump that to a 2. Bump that to a 2. That'll help. Unit in melee, nope. Flank support. Yes, so these two get flank support because they're touching each other. So he's supported by him and he's supported by him. So we're going to bump this to 3. Come on, where are you at, 3? It's going to be the last place I look, isn't it? We're going to just bump this one up to 3 as well. So that's flank support. Supported from the rear, that has specific meaning, but this guy is definitely supported from the rear here. So we're going to bump this to 3. It's going to be the last place I look. Boom. So that helps. Missileers within 10 inches capable of providing covering fire. Well, in this case, yes, this guy is supported by 2 units of missileers within 2 inches. So I'm going to give him a +1 bonus. Nope, it's +1 for each unit. So it's going to be 2. So that's going to help this guy go up from 1 to 3. So that's good. Unit is within 15 inches of unengaged enemy cavalry, -1. So because of this particular circumstance, this goes back down to a 2. This goes back down to a 2. This goes back down to a 2. This would be so much easier if there were different people at the table doing these rolls, but instead I'm explaining, I'm refereeing, and I'm trying to keep the rules all straight in my head. I think that's it. Optionally assign a modifier, which we're not going to assign any optional modifiers. It's already complicated enough. All right, now let's get to the results, what everybody wanted to see. Results for this reaction test. So that guy gets a 10. He is grade, oh yeah, we need the grade for this unit. I think these guys are all grade C. So the Breton Javelin men are grade C. So we're going to the column for grade C. These troops, so that guy got a 10. 10 to 13. Persevere if already engaged in combat, otherwise continues with the active order, so he's fine. And this guy got an 8, 9, 10, so he's fine. And then this guy got a 7. 7 is halt 2 turns. So this guy has to actually halt for 2 turns. This will be the first turn, and then... So he's not going to come off the hill. So interesting circumstance already. The troops that came off the hill, I'm going to give no movement penalty coming off because they moved directly off the hill. Seems to be fairly steep in front. This unit 2, I moved both of them 4 inches, which is half the movement. So move them 4 inches forward. The cavalry over here, they both had to wheel a bit, and then I moved them up to, which would essentially be half of their charge movement rate. So their charge movement rate, their non-charge movement rate is 16. Their charge movement rate is, oh, these are actually medium horse. I may have got that wrong. I was looking at light horse, I think. Just double check that. 8 inches and 20 inches. Yeah, so half of that would be 10. Yeah, I think in both cases, these guys impacted right around 10. So they did about 3 inches of wheel, and then they did, I'm going to say 7 to 8 inches forward. So at the halfway point, this is what would have happened. However, these troops are light troops, light footmen with orders to skirmish, which means that with that, in the absence of other orders, they will evade if charged by cavalry. And that evasion means a facing change, which has no movement cost, and then 10 inches to the rear. Impassable obstacles, this is not an impassable obstacle. It just means it costs double the movement cost. But they have to move 10 inches to the rear now, and I think that's what's going to happen. The question is whether the horse will overtake them during this 10-inch to the rear move. Since they both have 20 inches of movement and have only consumed 10, that means both of them have 10. The question is, I think this one might get away just because it's going up the hill. And this one can interpenetrate to get away, but it's already quite a mess over here on this side. Just keeps getting worse and worse, more and more complicated. So this Breton unit would end up there if it makes its full 10-inch movement. I'm going to say the horse would be able to overtake them before they turn around again. However, before that happens, these Bretons, even though they're halted, can still fire during the movement segment if there's a pass-through fire kind of opportunity. I did add this into the WRG rules. So this unit will be able to hit that horseman, and potentially that'll do some damage, so we'll resolve that. Same thing over here. These Bretons are turned around. They're about to interpenetrate these Irish kerns. However, the horseman, in trying to overtake it, comes within 5 inches of those hidden French crossbowmen who are going to get a shot as this unit interpenetrates its way out of the battlefield. So first, these guys are going to get shot. Second, I don't think they'll overtake the Bretons, but they will crash into these first rank of Irish kerns. I don't think interpenetration of light unit to light unit causes any disorder, but I will double check the rule. Let me see if perhaps out in the middle of the battlefield things are less complicated. It's already very complicated, folks. So, reaction test. These guys were ambushed, have to take a reaction test because of that ambush. These guys have to take reaction tests because they have come for the first time within 15 inches of enemy heavy cavalry. I moved these guys up 6 inches, the leader up 6 inches. Those guys are standing fast. These guys are only firing. The Irish kerns are standing fast. The leader is standing fast. Yeah, so I think I've kind of sorted out here. These billmen would normally have to take a reaction test for being charged. Similarly, this horseman would have to take a reaction test because he is a feudal set of mounted knights within 2 moves of the enemy, right? Because he's considered impetuous. Same thing for these guys. I'll eventually get to their reaction test too. But I moved all these guys up half. These units aren't going to move. The archers did manage to move up, wheel out into the left half of the wedge, and this guy wheeled out into the right half of the wedge. There's no rule about emplacing stakes, but here's how I think it works. Until the archers are in their final position, they can't emplace the stakes, so they can't begin work on the stakes until turn 2, and then the work will complete at the end of the movement segment in turn 3. So let's go through each of these reaction tests and see what happens. So these curs over here from the Yorkish side are considered to be grade B. Let's see if there's any modifications to their roll. Reaction test modifiers. Being tested by missile or artillery fire but lacks cover, so we're going to subtract 1. Unit is hit on an unshielded flank. These guys are unshielded, but it doesn't apply to heavy horse. Well, these are not heavy horse. So unshielded flank takes them down to 1. Units not disordered. Noble not attached. Army commander not within range. Unit not downhill, uphill, doesn't matter. Not in melee. Flank support, no. Rear support, no. Missileers providing covering fire, no. 15 inches of unengaged enemy cavalry. Ooh. Yes. So -1 again. So they still got a 10, and they're a grade B. 10 for grade B puts us in the 9 to 12. Persevere if not already engaged in combat. Otherwise, continue with the active order. That's if somebody's under active orders, which they are. So these guys are going to persevere. That is a nothing burger for that test. Now, these guys. Same situation. Are they within 15 inches of an army commander? Yes. So we'll go through the factors. So missile or artillery fire doesn't matter. Unshielded doesn't matter. Disordered, no. Attached, no. Army commander within 15. Yeah, so all three of those are going to get a +1. Downhill, uphill doesn't matter. Melee doesn't matter. Flank or rear support. In this case, I could give rear support to probably both of these units. So I'm going to give those guys +2. So let's add a +1 for the Army commander here. So that takes this to 3. And then we're going to add +2 over here. So that'll take that to 3. And that'll take that to 5. Are there missileers that can give them cover? No. Are they within 15 inches of unengaged cavalry? Yes. So all of them are within 15 inches of this unengaged cavalry, so that's going to take it back down 1. Okay. So we think we've got it. And then those guys are the Lancastrian heavy horse, which I think that's going to be, yeah, grade B. So let's see, we've got a 7 for grade B. Grade B, and these are units that have standing orders, right? These are active orders. Those are if they have no active orders. So grade B, 7, 5 to 8. Halt 2 turns. Ooh, interesting. So this guy comes to a halt, which I could have potentially done this test earlier, but we're just going to put that guy in the halt mode. 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's the same thing. That guy's going to halt as well. Ooh, interesting results here. And then this guy got an 11, 12, 13. 13 to 15 acts as the Army commander would wish, immediately implements the new course of action. So he was already implementing a good course of action, so I don't care. So that's interesting. So this is kind of the situation at the half move. I'm going to resolve this fire, and then I'm going to move out that countercharging heavy horse and finish the movement over here.